Yeah, it's just a chat, innit?
Yeah,
just a
that's
chat.
what we liked.
Nah, I'm a chatty Cathy. Yeah, I like having a gossip.
Can I swear in this? What's the vibe?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Great.
That is my own thing. I'm a bit of a wiggler, and I talk with my hands.
Do you want me to keep my hands still because I'm very...
you want to do. Because it's also hard to answer that without sounding like a w***er. I think...
I'm never going to work when I'm coming here, like I'm going to play.
I don't know, the words are rambling, but the sentiment is silliness. Nice.
I get really sad if I don't put pen to paper very often.
Well, I love Kermit, and I'm hoping that I can just spread that to the world. That it's not easy being green.
I feel like I was waffling anyway, so... All right. I was on the right track, good.
I think I'm just more like, what am I gonna say? I'm coming across like a dick.
When I was not an artist, actually that's not true, we're all artists from birth. Let's put that in the trailer.
Because I don't want it to seem like I'm being really political, but it is kind of what I do.
I definitely want the shout out to the team to be in there because I love them. I love them all so much.
Can you understand my accent? Yeah. Yeah, okay.
How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah.
I love saying Elliot from E.T. That's another one that I say a lot. Elliot. I love it.
I mean, in a lot of kind of recent paintings, all the ducks have been on fire, and like, I don't think that's a good thing.
So, you feeling all right?
Yeah.
Comfortable? Like, I'd say not move too much. Like, I mean, don't, if you need to...
Bit of a creaky chair.
Or whatever.
I might move my hands a bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. So what does creativity mean to you?
Okay, creativity.
Oh, you've gone in straight with a difficult question, I think.
Yeah, good question, that one.
Creativity means to me, it is...
Ooh, good question. Creativity to me...
Creativity.
It's hard to define creativity because it's very much like, it's a way of being. It's always around, it doesn't go away. For me, I think it's a headspace that you enter into where you kind of are more open and you kind of explore the world with curiosity, like childlike, that kind of thing.
Oh God, I think it just means having ideas and having ways to express them, I think.
I think for me, creativity is this sort of silent thing that comes up behind me and almost propels me. It's like a need to do something or make something or put something on paper or work with my hands or think in a certain way.
I don't know, it's so linked to everything that I do that it is, I guess, intrinsically within everything.
Creativity, there's no wrong way to be creative, I'd say that. If you're enjoying the process, you're being creative. That's perfect, yeah.
Talking to other friends that do creative things, there's this kind of idea between us that we talk about that, like, it's not necessarily like a compulsion or a drive to do things, but like we get weird if we don't. Which I imagine you've heard a few times from different artists. Like,
it's just a freedom of expression. It's something that I like to be able to, for myself, sit back and go, I can do this because I want to. And people might like it, people might not. But to me, it's just knowing that there's something you can do for the sake of doing it.
I think creativity is everything in my life. It's like my fuel, what keeps me excited about things. The potential of like creating is so exciting and interesting to me.
It's making something from nothing. It's thinking about something in a way that other people haven't, and kind of having those conversations where people are like, oh my God, like I wouldn't have done it like that. And you're there like, well, this is just who I am. So,
and I guess it sort of feels like freedom to me to create stuff.
I like the idea of just being able to play as much as I can.
yeah, there's like something in us that needs to be out.
I would say that when there's no creativity left in my body, it's when I'm like, have to be worried, because it just makes my day-to-day so interesting and nice and valuable.
So yeah, it's everything, isn't it? It's a whole way of living and thinking.
When people are always like, oh, I'm not a creative person like you, I always think to myself, no, you will be, you just haven't necessarily acknowledged what your creativity is.
I think sometimes people get intimidated by that word creativity. Like a lot of people say I'm not creative. And I say that all the time. And I just think, yeah, it can be intimidating, but I just think being creative is just that inherent thing that we have in all of us, and we can kind of just express it.
Because my mum isn't an artist, but she's such a creative person. She's just a little weirdo. She's so silly. And when I was a kid, we'd run around and she'd just get us to do little activities and things that you weren't necessarily making something, but it engaged with that side of your brain that's pulling pieces together, that's going, oh, I wonder what that would look like there.
I think that's the thing with art, is that you don't need to understand every choice in the procedure. You just need to look at it as what it is and be like, oh cool, that's made me feel something or think something. And even if it was just you had fun making it, then yeah, that's great. Great job. 10 out of 10.
It's our dog's right friend. I can't spell it. That's probably how they pronounce it as well. They've got different mouths and tongues, haven't they? So yeah, the frames, yeah, they do look really good, don't they? But I talk about it a lot, kind of with people that come to the community groups, because I started the groups after losing my brother to cancer a few years ago, and kind of retreating into my studio, and I started doing just little drawings, and they became my mighty horses, which became kind of these, in my work, like post-apocalyptic warrior guardians, which are like these creatures that potentially keep me safe in a way, but also allowed me to start talking about grief and loss and social isolation because of chronic pain, and kind of allowing myself to be open about anxieties. And I used to have cycles of pain and anxiety where just the thought of being in pain led to kind of, really strong anxiety, crippling anxiety, and also anxiety would then lead to really disabling physical pain. And I've found with creativity, it's a way that I'm able to kind of almost label the thing, and then once I've written the title of a painting as well, talk about it. Without that, it's really hard.
Sorry to hear about that, man.
yeah, me too. This is a mighty horse, an old one. Where's this one from? 2023. This is called The Well-Intentioned Empty Words After Death.
That's a powerful title, isn't it?
Do you want me to open the shutter if you want a bit more light?
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
It's not fun.
What do I do now? Should I put it back?
Yeah, might as well.
Might as well.
Anything you want to add? I'll just check in with James.
Yeah.
Doing well.
Yay!
You've kind of mentioned stuff with your mum, but is there anything you can remember making when you were younger that really stands out?
Mate, there's so much from my childhood that has just fed into my creativity. So my dad is a designer for audio wear. So he's not painting, but he's got that creative aspect. So I've definitely inherited that from him. And my mum, like I say, she's not, my mum's not arty, but she's creative and weird. But my gran is just amazing. Like, she's got this crazy house that's got all the different rooms are different themes. She's got one that's like a everything's black and like ivy and there's goblins on the walls. I love that. And she would take us to the carnival every year. So we would like make costumes and dress up. I remember one we made like emus and I was a princess and I had these fake legs. And it was just stupid. It was just ridiculous. But it was all community focused because she's wandering around being an absolute moron. And it's fantastic. And I do it with all my family as well. So it was very much just like, it wasn't just making, it was like playing and then celebrating, which is lovely. So yeah, my family definitely sort of encouraged my creativity a lot, which I'm really grateful for.
Definitely my mum and my nana. So like my nana, she had arthritis, but she made till the very end. She would sew, she made these little like figures, dolls, clothes, like anything my mum needed, it would be handmade. And then mum kind of carried that through into my childhood. So it was sewing and painting and like putting googly eyes on rocks. It was just like the whole shebang. So I always had like room to make. I never felt stifled when I was younger. It was very much like, you want to do that? Do that.
I remember drawing a lot and I remember making things with textiles, wool particularly actually. A lot of the female members of my family made things, and a lot of textile things, clothes, knitwear, etc. household objects, that kind of thing. We were given the choice, right, okay, we're going to go to the market today, we're going to pick some fabric, you know, we're going to make you a tracksuit.
My grandmother, I think on a trip to Europe once, saw paper flowers in a shop in Paris and fell in love with these and learned how to make them. And she was always making them, and every time she gave us a present, there are little flowers on them, and she had them everywhere. And when I was like 13, 14, I asked her to teach me how to make one, because I always used to sit and like help her fold the petals and stuff, so she taught me.
I was quite lucky. My grandma was really into like crafty stuff, so she always sewed and she loved painting and drawing. So anytime we went to her house, we used to like, even down to little things like we'd watch Art Attack and we would turn toilet paper tubes into like little characters and play with them in the garden. So I think I kind of always have had that, and it's always been something I've really enjoyed. I was like a drama kid at school, did art and graphic design.
My nana brought out these like little green t-shirts for like me and my brothers to paint, and at the time I had this stuffed animal called Lollipop. It was this bloody lion, and I was like, I'm gonna paint Lollipop, and she was like, go for it, set you in a tiger free. So I was like scrawling all over this t-shirt, this Lollipop design. It was great, and I still had it, and I remember finding it and putting it on to see if it would still fit me, and I was just stood in this green t-shirt with this lion on. But yeah, that's probably one of the first kind of memories that really stuck out to me. Is like, yeah, this feels right, like this is me, you know.
Hello, this is my sister, and my name is Thomas. She likes fairies, and she also likes fairy books. I don't like her very much though.
Why?
You're always annoying me.
Well, as you can see, this is my room. These are my two teddies, Lollipop and Smarty. But my favourite thing in my whole room, if you come over here, is my hamster. He's called 2 seconds, I'll just wake him up. Neville!
That is so cute.
Do
you still have it?
Yeah, still got it. Occasionally I'll like put it over my neck just to feel something, you know. It's like, yeah, I am the tiger.
I'm from Colombia, so we're very close with our families, and my whole family is very creative, or has been. And I come from a big family of women who create. So from like my great grandmother, she used to breed orchids, and then she would paint them on porcelain. And then one of my aunties was a jewelry designer. The other one made things. My grandmother was the one who taught me how to make the flowers. My sister is an artist. My mom was really creative, even though she wasn't like in the arts. So yeah, that's how maybe that's like our love language, and how we kind of impress each other and joins us together.
Grandmas are so key, aren't they?
She's mad as well. She looks like Rod Stewart. She's like got a mullet. She rides a unicycle. She juggles. She's just weird. It's great.
Can we have a number and can we make a film?
She went viral actually because some random dude interviewed her on the street and they were like obsessed. The internet was obsessed with her. She wears like leather jackets.
Can you show us that after?
Yeah, of course.
Did you make something that you remember?
I did a drawing of a lion in a personal topic. At primary school we did personal topics, which was like a lovely thing now that I look back at it, where you kind of just do your own research on a subject. Like as an 8-year-old, it was amazing. I did a picture of a lion, a drawing of a lion in there. I remember that. I can kind of still see it in my mind. And that was the first time I did a drawing and I thought, that's good. Yeah.
Ooh, I remember being quite young and just drawing little lines and shapes, and it was probably Sonic the Hedgehog, let's be honest. It was definitely Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, but when the first time you get a drawing and it looks like the thing that was in your head, that's quite like an ignition moment of like, oh, I made that. I had this thing up here and now it's here. That's quite a special thing that happens. And for me, when I drew that Sonic the Hedgehog, that was it. I was off to the races, yeah, it was great.
How old were you?
I was probably about 5, probably. I don't know if that's true, but like I was wiggling pencils on paper and having a lovely time. It was great.
Do you still have it?
No, God, no. I probably ended up in a bonfire somewhere.
And I remember I used to love like Beatrix Potter. I just thought there was the animated TV show, which was incredible. But then I also just loved the books. I had all of the Beatrix Potters, and so I used to sit for hours just drawing the animals, recreating Peter, and like just trying to figure out how I could draw like that and teach myself. And there was other books like that. Anything that was like a picture book, I would try and recreate the drawings. And like there is some old books that I've got as a child where I've drawn in the book next to the drawings. So just stuff like that. It was constantly just needing to figure out how I could do those things or recreate something or make stuff.
My parents, although they're not professionally creative, but they've got a really kind of Victorian aesthetic in their house. So it's top to bottom with like antique furniture and textiles and those kind of things. And I really remember just being surrounded by that stuff and feeling that it was quite sort of special, even maybe a bit odd or unusual. And maybe in childhood there's moments where you think, oh God, I just wish I had a normal house. I actually really hold that as like one of the major kind of influences on me really. What would I have become if I hadn't experienced that?
I remember like the first pottery class that I did when I was like, I think I must have been about 8 or 9 because my brother had just been born and we put his little handprint on the plate, which was really cute. But yeah, like really like to make with my hands. And then my family are quite creative. My dad is a luthier, so he builds guitars. And my gran's an artist, a painter. And then my granddad, who actually started the original Bazaar, was a costumier. So there's quite a few creatives in the family, and I think like being around that at a young age definitely inspired me to like continue with what I was doing and enjoying.
And I wasn't a creative child. I was like really shy and not shy, introverted, and I just used to read and was creative, but it was all inside of my head, like very much imagined spaces and imagined worlds and everything internal.
We had a VHS player and we had The Lion King on VHS, so I watched that quite a lot. And then one day I got a DVD of Rush Hour, and that probably changed my life dramatically in that I thought Chris Tucker was really cool and I watched that a lot.
What's weird is my project was on ancient Egypt. I don't know why there was a lion. yeah, maybe. Yeah, there must be like so many amazing projects done by kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them. And it's a lens where you can have, she doesn't understand as well.
It's playing with.
They're
aren't many men around. And I'm like, yeah.
See, I use folders to them.
There's a really nice thing, so I learnt this from one of my friends, but she trained me in yoga teaching. She's called Kaitlyn. But she told me the meaning of the phrase abracadabra, and it means I create as I speak, and it's just that sense of like, I guess intuition coming through and the unplanned and just that magic and just letting things happen and come out. I just love it. I tell everyone about it.
It kind of links with stuff we've asked earlier, but do you think people are born creative or do you gain it as you kind of get older?
Yeah, I think people are born, I think everybody is born with a certain amount of creativity, and then I think depending on how you're brought up, kind of naturally what you more lean towards, like that just gets neglected sometimes, but I think everybody has the capacity to be creative and to create.
Well, I think everyone can be creative. So yes, everyone's born creative. Some people's brains work better for it. Like I've got a very visual brain, so that lends itself to making art that's visual. But I think everyone has the capacity to kind of play, which is all creativity is, isn't it? Like everyone can make a sandcastle or like doodle. So yeah, it's you're born with it.
I don't know how anybody could not be creative. It just doesn't seem possible. Yeah, you can be creative in lots of different ways, not just arts.
I think it's inherent because I think there's a thread always running through and it doesn't feel like it ever changes, it just expresses differently or is more intense or you're more comfortable with it, but I think it's always there. Like I feel the same now as when I was a child, like that's like dreamy child.
I think maybe everybody is born creative. Some people develop it more or just have that, give themselves that permission to explore some more.
And I think everyone's creative, it's just the method in which they express it. Like people can be super creative, but they'll never pick up a paintbrush or never talk about themselves as an artist, but they could make amazing food and they could, I don't know, have like such a unique perspective of seeing the world, and that's creative in itself, but I guess it depends on how we term creativity or what we deem as creative.
I'm gonna say I'm not sure. I think maybe if you have creative parents, there's probably going to be a bit of a kind of gene there, isn't there, that's sort of passed down. But I do think influence is far more influential. I think there's maybe a little seedling there if you have parents or family that are kind of engaged in those sorts of things, but I think that seed has to be like nourished, and I think that's influence. Yeah,
I think we're definitely all born creative, 100%. We are creative beings. We make, you know, if you look back in history, cave paintings, we didn't have to do that, but someone was driven to create a paint and mark and leave something of themselves in the world, and we all want to do that. We need to create. It's an inner thing inside every single human, in my belief, and I think what the difference is those that get it cultivated and are able to have the space to cultivate it more, to take it forward, to, you know, be an adult that is able to put their creative passion out there, to the people who maybe think, no, that was a kid thing, drawing, I don't do that anymore.
From a young age, you have creativity, you want to make a mess, you want to do anything. And then just trying to hold on to that is actually quite hard. I don't know what it is that turns people off, makes people more critical of themselves, but it is something that is definitely a factor going forward in your life, that maybe someone's not going to appreciate the thing you did as much, maybe the teacher's not going to give it the best grade, but like, there was nothing and you made something, and that should be A star, big thumbs up, great job sticker.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of hard, isn't it? Because like, I don't know, I feel like everyone can be creative as well. Like when people say to me, oh, I'm not creative, I'm like, you can be, and it shouldn't be like a roadblock that you think like, I can't do it.
I think people are playful, kids are playful. Yeah, and that in itself is creative. I think everyone has that. I think it's something that's potentially conditioned out of people.
And like, I guess that's like partly because of like the society we live in, where like if people don't have the opportunity to be creative, or they're like feel like they can't do it, then they might not ever like let it out.
I think it's quite sad. I know there's the whole joke that people say like, oh, everyone's got a book in them, and you'll have other people that say you'd be lucky if you could get a pamphlet out of you. But I think everyone does have something creative, whether they know it or not. And I just think it's exploring it. I mean, there's so many places now, even in Leeds, that I'm seeing people that are wanting to try things. There's people doing like wine and painting classes. There's rug tufting companies now. People are like getting into millinery. So people are learning skills. But I think to them it's just a novelty date idea. And to me, I'm like, no, you're just exploring creativity. Keep that up. Like in lockdown, my mum got so bored, she bought a guitar and just went, I'm going to teach myself guitar. She wanted a project. I started doing my artwork. My dad loves gardening.
I think we are born creative, yeah. So I did a class, my first ever teaching class to children last year, and I went in there and I was teaching them about drawing. I walked into the room and I said, okay, who here is good at drawing? And every hand in the room went up. All the kids were like, I'm the best at drawing in the world. I'm going to show you I'm not good at drawing. They were like so enthusiastic about drawing. And then I did a class later in the day with kids and parents. I asked the same question. Again, the kids are like, oh, I'm the best in the world. But none of the parents' hands went up, because at some point if anything, creativity gets diminished in life because we start being more critical of ourselves. It's like we cannot, as our mental image of what we want to create changes. As a kid, you just want to make something that looks vaguely like a horse and you're happy with it. But as you grow older, it becomes like, if I'm not painting a beautifully illustrated, rendered mane of a horse, then it's not good art. I shouldn't even bother. But as a kid, that doesn't even factor into your head. I'm not trying to make a photograph of a horse. I'm trying to make 4 legs and a goofy little face, and that's pretty much all you need. And that is a horse.
Do I?
The Doodle Chat, because I'd found that I was able to talk through the act of making, the act of like having something in front of me to distract me from like looking at someone's face. I found I was able to start talking and open up about my own mental health. Yeah, so Doodle Chat is a not-for-profit. Yeah, we run creative wellbeing sessions. It's a space to come and spend time with other people in your community. But it's grown now. I'm reaching like 60 people a week. I had like a core group of 4 pensioners. They still come every week. And over like the last couple of years, I've been watching like friendships forming. I've had first-hand accounts of how good it has been for people in terms of their own mental health. Like it has supported people to improve well-being, to be less isolated, to find a safe space in the community. People come, they have a lovely time. People feel safe to talk about the things they need to talk about. We don't offer advice, we don't offer therapy. It's a space to come, and if you need to talk, you talk and people listen. And yeah, it's as simple as that. Anyone is welcome to come along.
Oh, I need to see the massive cat.
I love that massive cat.
But he really enjoys it because...
Madam Web, a classic.
The amount of people that say to me like, oh, I really liked art when I was at school, and it's like, you go back and do that. If you liked that thing, why did you stop doing it? Like, but something in their head or somebody guided them to be like, that's not a thing and you don't need to do that anymore, and put down your pencil. And we don't need to do that. Like, we should all find whatever it is, because it's in so much. It's not just drawing or painting or anything like that. It's in everything. Everybody should do it. And I think we'd have a lot more mentally happy people if we were able to keep producing.
It's just about nurturing it, you know, taking that time to paint and it not having to look like anything or be anything, just scribbling. And yeah, I think everybody is creative.
But it makes me think, actually, it's like, what do we deem as creativity? And then you think about, like, if you think about when you were in school, there's like art on one end of the spectrum and then like sciences and maths on one end, and you'd see one as creative and one as very like academic and rigid. But how creative are mathematicians and scientists? Like that is creative. That's the most creative thing, I think, being able to think in such a different way and just apply it to a different field. Like I said, my brother is so good at maths and coding, and he will make games. He can make a game. I can't do that, but that's creative, and he doesn't see that in himself, but that is creativity.
It's lovely. I've got like pensioners that come to the community groups that haven't done art in like years. Like they really enjoy that they're able to learn again. Like, yeah, being creative, being playful, being with other people is great, but yeah, they're like reskilling, learning skills that were potentially lost. I hadn't done arts in school.
I always say anyone can cook from Ratatouille all the time, but I think that's like the message. Like anyone can be creative, anyone can cook, you know?
Oh man, I love Ratatouille. It's one of my favourite comforts.
Say it all the time. It's so good. My partner will be like trying to go to bed and I'll be going, anyone can cook.
It's okay. Yeah, it's a hard question, isn't it? What do you guys think?
I don't.
We ask the questions.
You think people about does it?
And I'll just know.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me go from the start. This one.
Yeah, I get a lot of. If I had £1 for every time somebody told me they're writing a kid's book. I really like what I really like about.
And that's kind of what I start as a beginning point, and then.
How would you describe your work?
My work is bright and happy, but also takes the sad hand in hand with that. I kind of like that life is playful, but it's also dark. There's also darker elements and feelings and emotions, and I like kind of playing with that in a really childish style, because I think we all should nurture our inner children a bit more and kind of put things in our home that our inner child would like more, and you know, that's kind of how I like to make things, is just very, very childlike and playful and bright, and yeah, the weirder and the bolder the better sort of thing for me. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like to describe it as kind of trying to spread a bit of joy at the end of the world. It's all post-apocalyptic visions of a kind of either like a misremembered past or a kind of way of documenting a future mythology. It's why I use a lot of pigeons and ducks and birds and animals that are all around us. So I'd kind of like it plays with this idea of kind of climate catastrophe, and when all the things that we see are gone, how do we remember them? Or how do animals remember us when we're all gone? That.
Well, based on some people, a bastardization of classical painting. And I'm completely fine with that. Like, I'm very much as in on the joke as what the people that hate my work are. So when I started it, the idea for me was people that created, that would have been in paintings back in the day, would have been socialites, high society members, celebrities, and to me, celebrities nowadays are people like drag queens. It's creatives, it's musicians, it's artists. So for me, I just wanted to turn these paintings into current celebrities and kind of just do a pop culture take on that. So that's the idea of just putting a modern millennial makeup on a classical painting of Anne Boleyn.
How would I describe my work? I'd say my work aims to be cute and fun and colourful. I think I find that that's a great way to bring people along with you, is to like show something quite engaging up front, to make positive art, I suppose. Like, I never want to draw anything depressing. When I try and draw depressing things, I try to show the optimistic side of it. Like when I'm drawing I did a painting of Manchester has a notorious alley where everyone goes to piss on nights out, and I did a painting of that, and I hopefully made it look beautiful, but I don't know that I did. I know that I tried to. And I think that's part of it, is you're not always going to nail it, but you can try to make things, you can try and show people your world, basically, to show people like the way you see the world. And that's kind of what I want to do, is to show the light, fun side of life.
I would describe my work as, I think whimsical is the word that I use the most, because I mentioned that I'm an overthinker, because I am, and my favourite works are the ones where I just sort of slap a face on a turnip. And it doesn't have to be overthought, it can just exist. And I think whimsy is a really good way to describe that, because it's joyful and it's silly and it doesn't have to be more than that.
My work is very colourful, really textural. It's very joyful, very detailed, and you really want to touch it. I think it brightens up your day when you see it.
But I think in my stuff, when I'm doing like my picture books, I always, when I'm writing books, I always try to have a story or something behind it, because I live in the world and I see things that I think are important that we capture and we talk about. And then I think, well, I can't go off to Parliament and argue that, or I can't be at that country fighting that corner, but what is my skill set and what can I do? And my skill set is I can write and draw. And so what I try to do is turn that in onto my work and find a way to be able to tell the stories of something that I think is important, and especially probably driven by the having of children. I see the things that they struggle with and where they may be feeling less sure or less, like more uncertain, and then I try to kind of guide my work to be like, well, I can see this is a thing and this is a reoccurring thing of acceptance or understanding or whatever, and then I try and drive that into creating stories.
The work that I make is primarily jewellery, but the way that I make is kind of an embodied way of making, and that sounds very vague and pretentious, but I notice how things feel in my body and let that intuitively guide what I'm making and why I'm making, and that sounds really vague. But it's the best way I can describe it right now. But then surrounding that, shooting off from jewellery, I use some of the jewellery making techniques like sand casting, organic casting, and using molten metal, and I've started branching off and making like tiny little sculptures, which could be classed as sculptures, I guess. They're just tiny and jewellery size, but they're standalone pieces that don't relate to the body.
I mean, I think that a lot of the work that I produce is about things that I've maybe seen or been influenced in the past, and I wouldn't say I work from memory, but I try and capture the essence of things that I'm inspired by or that I've experienced, particularly through the drawing process. And then colour is a huge thing for me as well, so how can I use mark making and colour, and then to sort of create an idea or a feeling of something or represent it more fully if it's quite illustrative.
I know that as an artist and as a creative, I have the capacity to put lots of time and effort into my work and make something that has layers and depth that you can, write an essay about. But I don't want to. I don't care. I just want to make stupid stuff. And when I realised that you could just do that after uni, after I'd been told that I had to make it all think, oh my God, it was great. It was so freeing. I was just like, great, I'll just do anything. And then slapping it on jumpers as well and gives it that function means that it can just be ridiculous.
And then when I'm focusing on people's books that I'm illustrating for them, I always try to bring my very distinct style that I have into that work, because obviously they've picked me for my style to work on their books. But bring in the little nuances of things that I enjoy as well. So I really love nature, being outdoors, I love animals, Beatrix Potter. I'm still an influence. And so I will try and bring those bits into the work that I do for others as well, where there's a lot of nature and animals, and the things that influence me come out into the work, even if it's someone else's manuscript.
The style of Bazaar, rather than me personally, has always been quite fun, quite colourful. Definitely want it to be quite creative, immersive. I weirdly just really like producing like really big structures. Like, so my best friend Charlotte, we went to the art college together. So I did fine art, she did fashion, and we lived in the same flat in Halls the first day we met each other, and then we were like together ever since. Shaz is like my right-hand woman at Bazaar. She's amazing. And then now we've got like other full-time team members. So there's 5 of us now. Like Bazaar is really important in Leeds is because we have like such an amazing network of freelancers who are also like artists or musicians or creatives. And it's kind of like allowing them to have like paid creative work alongside their practice. So I think that is why what we're doing here is like really important to Leeds creative scene as well.
Going back to that visceral thing of making is probably why I'm a screen printer. It's that process of mixing the ink, putting it on the screen, pulling it through the screen, seeing the colour on cloth, and then that reward of all that effort and energy that then comes through into a finished piece of fabric is so rewarding. And I think there is something about textiles that allows us to experience those things, not just as a maker, but also somebody that uses them, because they're an inherent part of our lives, from the things that we wear, to the things that we have in our home, to the things that buildings are made of. They're just everywhere. And I hope that in my work I try and reiterate the importance of textiles, really, because it's almost so visible, it's invisible. People take it for granted, I think. So it's nice to be able to say, no, this is a really important like visual tool or language.
My grandma, she taught me when I was a teenager, and I forgot about it. And it was like just asleep in my brain for many years. And after I had my son, I was like dying to be creative, like have a moment to be myself. So I did do you know the 100-year project and 100-day project? So you do something every day for 100 days, whatever you want. You can write something, you can take a photo. So I decided I'm going to do, when my son goes to sleep, 1 flower for 100 days. And it came back. That's how I did it. But by then my grandma wasn't here anymore. So from wherever she is, she's proud, I think. Yeah. Every time I make a flower, it reminds me of her, of everyone. So yeah, it's like it links me to them so much. These ones that I made, the big ones, were meant to be each person, each woman from my family. So they represent them.
Oh, that is amazing.
We definitely try and be inclusive in employees here, and it probably also goes back to what I was talking about before, like being female-led company, like also giving women that opportunity to come in here and like do like what I guess is like a masculine or a man's role. But I think it's like so important that like women are given like a voice and like are able to do things that like people think only men can do, like, you know, carpentry, for example, like driving a big van. Like, I just think that's definitely something that maybe subconsciously there is an undertone of us saying like, yeah, you can do it. Like, it's not a man's world. Like, everyone can do it. I think it's really, really important that like no one, doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter who you are, like feels like they can't do those things. Because we do a lot of events, so it's like quite male dominated. I've had to lead like a lot of teams of men, me being like the only female, and like navigating that and like feeling like you've got to kind of prove yourself, or like you've got to deal with like people speaking to you a certain way and like rising above that. And like now that I have a team as well, like protecting my team from like dealing with situations like that as well. That's like something that has been like a hurdle. It's really funny because whenever like we're on site, for example, or like maybe even in here, and a man will come in and they'll automatically walk over to like the first man that they see, thinking that he is like the manager or the owner or whatever. So it happens on site all the time, and then it's really funny because the guys that work here will be like, that's the boss lady over there. And then, so that happens quite a lot. And then also, I've had loads of times back in the day when I used to be going around with my toolbox on wheels, and I'd have like men being like, oh, what's in there, love? Is it makeup? And I'd be like, no, it's actually tools. Or like I'd be there with my drill and they'd be like, oh, do you know how to use that, love? And I'd be like, yeah, I do actually. And then when I'm driving the big van and you see like builders looking like, what's she doing in that? Funny. I love it, yeah. I love it, yeah. It's even more funny when I'm like glammed up with my fur coat on in the van, like. It is annoying, but we've just got to keep proving them wrong.
About which ones were your favourite?
Yeah.
And we sort of can see the wall a bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk us through that again?
So this one is my great auntie Gabriela, who was very elegant and like more traditional, very kind of feminine. This one, a huge one, is my grandma, like the most creative and like out there. And she, even though she was obviously like born in the 1920s, she was like always telling us about like independence for women and how she bought her first trousers. So she was the best. So that's my grandma. This is my mom, with a fuzziness, softness in the middle, but then I guess a bit more prickly outside, but amazing. And this one's my sister. Yeah, that's it. I don't have any others.
Like, yeah, sometimes the pain gets in the... I'm gonna guess that that's... No. No, we might have to go and have a look at that. I don't know that this is a drill.
Where does the name come from?
So my mum always used to call me Sunshine. She's like, come here, Sunshine. Like, oh, have you had a good day, Sunshine? And it, just how that made me feel, just radiated through me. So ever since then, I was like, Sunshine Child, like, bring it on. I think as well, like, child, my work does speak that, doesn't it? I think it's very playful, very childish, very like, cuts the line between kitsch and a bit tacky, but also kind of like art and fine arty. So I felt like it just really fit, and that's where I've stayed. So
that's so nice.
Yeah.
Does she call you it now?
Sometimes she'll be like, oh, Sunshine, you know, but not so much anymore. It's usually my full name now when I'm in trouble for something.
How did you develop a style?
Practice. Yeah, so I think style comes from standing firm in the things that kept coming up as repetition or things that I was always doing throughout, and just keeping like reviewing my work and being okay with the things that were inherently there and are always sticking around. And I think then you start to channel that and think, well, this is how I do this, and not this comes easy, because I don't think creativity's easy or designing's easy. I think if you are a conscientious designer, it should be hard because you're trying to evolve and move things forward. But I think it is about tuning into the things, constantly reviewing and reflecting where you're going, where it's come from. And that's how that develops.
A lot of trial and error, a lot of failure, a lot of being really frustrated with what I was making. I think that helped me develop. I think I never went to uni, so I was very much isolated in kind of feeling like, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? But I feel like it just let me snowball into just keeping going and just, yeah, trying all different things. I think not being afraid to fail definitely helped.
Necessity, not having space to do stuff, not having money to buy materials, like stuff like that kind of shapes the work you can make. Yeah, like part of the style of the work is that like I don't use materials that you can make really nice pictures with, which is why, yeah, there's like all sorts of stuff showing through, and like the finish on the pieces is kind of often not the same finish you'd get with like oil paints and stuff like that. I guess like all of that feeds into it. Yeah, you have to be creative with it. Yeah. I like just using what I find, because yeah, it does then like mean that you have to maybe try a little harder, or just like accept when things like are imperfect. I think it's quite important. Yeah, showing every mistake is kind of like doing your maths homework, isn't it? Like you've got to show you're working, but then it shows people how the work is made, and like yeah, like so I like. You know, there's no gatekeeping. Like, I want people to make art, and you know, people make art in this way. That's fine.
I developed a style by just trial and error and keeping it fun. As it's fun for me basically, because if it's the process of making art is fun, then it's a lot easier to get back into making it. Like if my style of art was like Renaissance level shading on every eyelash, I probably wouldn't make hardly any work, because I hate that, it sounds awful. But like if my style of art is just drawing a dog and it's a circle with 2 ears, then like brilliant, I'm off to the races. If you can keep the process fun, then you're more eager to come back to it. And so I try to do a lot of that, just to whatever, if I'm drawing and I'm having a bad time, I have to step back and think like, why am I doing this? Let's make it more fun.
I was kind of always just self-taught with Photoshop. It was something I liked playing with. It's what I did for like my A-level art. I used Photoshop a lot and created like digital paintings, and it just got to the point where I thought, I have a skill and I'm really bored in COVID. Let's turn it into something. And it just started as a fun idea, and just, I wonder what this would look like if I put some blush on her, or do you think he'd look funny if I added a wig cap? And it kind of just turned into this growth of now doing almost, I think I've done about 90 of them now. And it's just, yeah, just a churning of all these different people and just turn them into like facets of drag that I just find interesting.
I never even thought about doing children's books until I was working in like stationery and cards, and you have to do all sorts of things. You have to do stuff for babies and kids, and another designer kind of said to me at that time, have you ever thought about doing kids books? And I was like, no. So I started kind of scribbling ideas on paper, and then it was hard because I had 2 young children to even be like, where do I find the time to even look at that? But I was like, they would need, I actually, my current agent, I have a publishing agent, they randomly added me on LinkedIn. And so he said, oh, if you ever want to chat, let's have a chat. And he said, well, you know, send me any images that you had. So I just kind of found all the kind of child-related design that I'd done over the years. So I just cultivated it all together in an email and was like, here you go. And he was like, okay, you have a lot of styles. And I was like, yep. And he was like, to be a book illustrator, you need a style, because for us to be able to get you work, somebody needs to think, who is Jess? And what does that look like? And so he was like, I think you should go away and just see how you can develop that. So, and it's around the same time, I got an iPad, one of the first ones, iPad Pro with the pencil when it had just come out. And I was like, okay, so what it meant was on an evening, I'd sit in front of the telly and I'd just doodle and like try different things. And I remember drawing sheets, like pages and pages of just heads, of like, what do heads look like for me? Like how are their eyes? How does that, like, how short are their bodies? How big are their feet? Like trying to figure out what that would look like. And then I started trying to create that into imagery of how I would show that in a book. And then I contacted him back and he said, like, I'll give you a manuscript and do some trial pages of a manuscript. So I did that and I was like, this is really fun. But where I started to how my work is now is so different. It's so vastly different. It's lovely when people say to me, like, I saw this and I knew it was yours. And you're like, oh, that feels so good. Like, it feels so good that, because I create a lot of stuff for big brands even, nobody knows it's me. Nobody can tell it's me. But when somebody goes, I was in a shop the other day and I knew it was yours, I saw it on the wall and I said, that's a Jess Rose. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. It like gives me goosebumps even just to think about it, because it's just like, I've made a thing, I've imprinted my thing in the world and people know it's my thing. And it's like, yeah, it's quite emotional.
I have ADHD and I've always been really scared to commit to a thing because I believe that I won't keep it up. And I'm a big perfectionist as well, so failing something is like a no-no. So for so long I was just like too scared to start because I knew that I wouldn't keep it up. But then I realised that if it's inevitable that I'm going to stop, then that's fine. That can just be what it is. So now I make choices knowing that they'll exist and they'll live, and then eventually they might change, they might die, they might go. So one of the reasons I love needle felting is because I didn't have to stick to the confines of a page. And so I've now made this sort of choice to felt onto something that's not square and not rigid. So it kind of solves that little problem for me and makes it easier because I don't have to think, I don't have to choose, I don't have to fill the pages, I can just do it. So I think style is a combination of following your instincts and being drawn to things that you love and actively avoiding things that you don't want to do, or like making things easier for yourself. If you hate choosing colours, pick a colour palette that you generally stick to. So it's, yeah, I think it seems really intimidating when you're young and you don't know what it is. But then when you realise that it's literally just you and like a decision, then it's fine.
I mean, drag to me has always been an art form that I found like captivating. Like I said with cinema, films like Tu Wong Fu, Priscilla Queen of the Desert, Tootsie, Mrs. Doubtfire, these were all films that I grew up watching as a kid. On TV, I loved watching Lily Savage, Dame Edna, and then obviously we've got Drag Race now, so it's kind of taken a whole new life of what the art form is. But to me, I just think there's something really captivating about just seeing someone create a new persona. I find it edgy and interesting, and so for me, it kind of just felt like a natural progression to take people from yesteryear and turn them into new versions. And I don't want to change the painting too much. I like to keep them kind of authentic, but just with a drag face, essentially. So some of them I might add a wig, some of them I might add makeup, but as a general rule, I like to think that I'm kind of still honouring the person in the painting and just turning people that, I don't know, maybe were homophobes into fabulous drag queens. So I got an email in 2022 basically saying, hi, this is the National Portrait Gallery and we'd really like to have a Zoom call with you, please. And I thought, that's it, the game's up, I'm getting sued. I was really convinced they were trying to cease and desist me for using paintings in their gallery. So I got incredibly paranoid. I was sat there like shaking 10 minutes before this Zoom call went out. And anyway, it was two girls that worked in the social media team for the National Portrait Gallery, and they said, we really like what you're doing and we love the fact that you're using our paintings. I don't suppose you'd be interested in doing a collaboration. And the idea they had was for LGBT History Month, they were getting queer voices and LGBT creators and getting them to put their stamp on the world. And they basically said, we'd like you to use one of our paintings. They gave me a choice of photographs and paintings from their archive that were of LGBT people and say, choose one that you find interesting. So I did one of a guy called Chevalier Dion, and at that time I was really inspired by Boy George. I've loved his music for years. So I decided to sort of take eras of Boy George and put them on this person that I think would have found it pretty cool, knowing that someone from, 80s pop stardom had kind of helped be an inspiration for that painting. Because I mean, let's be real, if you to look at the time sort of eras of these paintings that I'm using, like people in my community would have been burnt at the stake. And I just think it's kind of fun knowing that they can't do anything about it. These people in high society that probably wouldn't have loved us are now being turned into people like Ginny Lemon or Joe Black or Dame Edna, and just becoming these characters that to me I find fascinating and inspiring. And yeah, it just kind of is a bit of a middle finger to yesteryear, and it's getting harder as time goes on. I mean, there's trans debates coming back up now, which is ridiculous because trans people have always been on TV since I've grown up, and I don't understand now why we've got this fear of them. And actually, even when I did the thing for the portrait gallery, the amount of sort of negative comments I got, which was hilarious. A lot of it was just, I don't like this. But there was a lot of people that were really, I can't believe the portrait gallery doing this, June is June, and giving it all the sort of the homophobic stuff just because they don't like that a painting of someone that died 500 years ago has got eyelashes on. I'm sorry, but some of your favourite action stars and comedy personas have all done drag. Patrick Swayze did drag, Wesley Snipes has done drag, Robin Williams has done drag, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani had done a drag sketch when he like pre-running for president. Like, all these people have done it, but now they've just decided they're offended. And it is wild to me. So yeah, being able to sort of rainbow things up a little bit, I just think is a fun way of, yeah, I guess kind of minimal protest on my part.
I guess there's only you that will ever know, like, how did you see a mouth and think that would make a nice hole on the floor, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, there is only me that will know why that turned into what it did. I'd love to tell you why.
What about with the words as well? How do you like decide what?
Splish, splash and sploosh. Yeah, the words, I mean, it's a lot of words, and like the way that words are misspelt. Looking at dog memes, like dogs don't write very well, and I really like it. There's something in that idea of kind of, yeah, just having words that are silly. And, you know, there's a sparrow swimming in the water down here. It shouldn't be. Like, it says sploosh. That's nice. It's having a nice time. The word strength. This has come up recently, strength. So I feel like it's stronger than strength and strong. Like, but also, like, I just feel like, I don't know, like if a crow or a dog was saying it, it seems more natural that they'd say strength.
This is an unrelated story, but I was on a train to Glasgow once and I was painting a picture of a tiger and I was like, I'll just shake my pen, and then like the pink went right across the guy next to me's lap, and it was very embarrassing. But the tiger picture was really good in the end, so it was actually well worth it.
Did you give him the tiger?
No, I've got it here. Is it worth showing it for the camera? Yeah. I spotted it. And it's just
How did that person react?
He was just like, oh, I told him it was water-based paint and it would wash right out, and he seemed a bit less upset. But it was this very painting of the tiger.
Yeah, well, worth it.
The pink was worth it. I think the pink looks great.
It does look great.
I'm sure he would have appreciated it. Yeah.
I say I can taste an idea. So like when I know I'm on the right track or I'm making something, like I can actually taste it in my mouth. When something's going well, I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, ooh, salty, you know, like I'm on the right path. Gotta keep going. So yeah, I always say I can taste it, and I'll say to my partner, like, I just need to do it, because it's like all I can taste, all I can think about, it's just in me.
I love that. The first time we had
Really, like it's just like my mouth, like it's like salivating almost at the thought of like what can come out of me. It sounds so weird.
I get that with salt and vinegar crisps.
Oh,
like that.
Snap.
I loved how straight away you said you can touch it, because that's what I'm like.
Yeah, it has like just like such nice sounds, and yeah, it's really nice.
My favourite thing is to go to the flotation tank in town, where it's like sensory deprivation. I love it. I feel like an alien baby, you know, them ones that would be like wrapped in goo, and it's like, oh, my dream. If I could spend 5 hours every day doing that, I would.
There are similarities and similarities
I think I drank my coffee, is that right? I best not drink now, I've got a bit. Best not drink that Indian ink. Picking up my water. Have you ever done that? When you ever did like painting or whatever it's called? Just drink that. Oh no, that's my paintbrush water.
You might have answered a little bit of this, but why do you create? What kind of drives that?
I don't know, I think like, again, it's just something that I've always felt was inside me from being little, and like, I think even thinking back, as far back as I can remember, I had my little easel and I was always drawing and painting, and that was like, I don't know, just the only thing that I really like was very, very interested in.
I guess I create just because I have to. I have a tattoo, it says create or die on it, because I feel like that's very much how I live my life. I've always been brought up to have that freedom to make, to have creative ideas and to do whatever I need to express those ideas. So I think it is just like breathing to me, creating. I think it's something that if I didn't do, I think I would genuinely like wither away, like mentally, because it helps me in so many ways.
I kind of overthink too much. So as I've got older, creativity is almost like a way to almost turn my brain off. And that actually helps my mental health. And that I constantly find myself being craving and being pulled back to. It feels like a core part of my identity. I'm a little weirdo, and making art is the place where my weirdness isn't just like, it's more than just weirdness. It's like art, and it brings joy to people and they enjoy it. And if I didn't have that creative aspect, I'd just be a bit weird, and it wouldn't be as celebrated as it could be.
It's interesting because I always have this sense of guilt whenever I want to make things, and whenever I do make things, like trying to find this balance of working and time and free time and seeing friends and family and all this thing, and then there's this thing that pulls me back to making things, and I don't know what that is, but it's something that I can't get rid of, and it just makes me feel really happy. I guess I just create because I have to. I've got too many ideas in my head and a lot of them are rubbish, but it's just that, I don't know, that creative sense of just playing around and just trying things, and I just can't not.
I think I enjoy it a lot. Like, it's fun. I think that's one of the things that I do. I make like pictures of weird animals and put silly words on them, and it kind of makes me happy. And I found like the other thing that happened when I started doing like the little drawings, the little pictures, they were also something that kind of, it allows me time and space. So I kind of saw a lot of the drawings after my brother died as a way of honouring grief. Somebody said to me, honour your grief. And like it took a while to like properly understand what that meant, but kind of for me it was spending time with it and feeling it and kind of not trying to process it or work through it or past it. Like I felt like that grief was a measure of love and it was important to feel. Yeah. But yeah, like it swings between that kind of creating as a way of being able to communicate, being able to like say the things that I can't always say with words, and but also just playing, like just being silly. Like it's really important to like just play all the time, and I encourage lots of other adults to just play.
Well, I was tired and I was focused on being a mom of a new baby, but because I'm a very creative person, I found like a physical need. I was like, I need to have a moment in the day when I am me and I am creating something, I'm making something, and it made like that time of the day every night so exciting and fun. It definitely helped me like reconnect with the person I was before. Or even the person maybe I was meant to be, because I wasn't doing creative things specifically before having him either. So it kind of put me in a path of who I was becoming, which was really, really nice.
I think there's a drive, there's like an energy inside that has to create. I wouldn't say it's like an active decision, perhaps. I obviously work in creative jobs and do creative roles, but I think even before that, I remember as a kid I was just always driven to create things, and I'd be, even if I couldn't think of something to draw, I'd be like, Mum, tell me what I should draw. And she'd be like, a dog, and I'd be like, okay. And then I'd go and draw it because it was like a motor within me to make stuff and to use my hands and my thoughts and to see things and to capture things. So it just is innately, I have to do it. And I think when I haven't done it, I feel so hollow.
So yeah, being creative is not just a profession. It is like a human need, I think. And it could be a very small thing. It could just be coming up here and sitting and looking. I think it can be a very small process, but it is something that fills that need or scratches that itch, if you like. And I think it will ultimately make me feel better. And I feel fulfilled. I think that's the thing. And I make things because I believe that beautiful things should be a part of everyday life and that everybody should have that. They should be surrounded by things that they love or wear things that they love. That they enjoy visually and aesthetically, but also that they feel represent them as part of their personality as well. That's really important to me.
I create, for the same reasons as that. I love giving to the world a little bit of me, and what I want to give to the world I think is a limited amount that I can make in a lifetime, but I want to encourage people to create as well, basically, in the process. So I create kind of as a shortcut to getting everyone else to create, to show that it's easy, because there's an idea that making art is difficult and that it's hard and you have to be the world's biggest brain to do it, but it's just something that you can have fun with, and it's just still something that you can put out into the world that is yours, and it's a net gain for the world, basically. Yeah.
That's a good one, because that's a pigeon in the wind. That's a really windy pigeon. Yeah. Good friend. I like that one. But everyone's asking to be friends.
Why are they asking to be friends?
I think just it's important. It's important to connect. There's a time when I was really low and felt really alone. So I think you put extra weight on everything.
What would you say to someone who says they're not creative?
I'd say, stop it. I wouldn't really say anything. I would just give them some materials and I would just walk away and then lock them in a room and see what they do and then come back and say, ha, see, you are creative.
I would say to them, I probably would say to them, everyone can be creative. That is what I say to people, actually, if they say that to me.
I say all the time, people come to the community groups going, I'm not creative, and then an hour later they've made a picture and they're an artist.
But I just think more people need to explore themselves and figure out what they can or want to try.
I used to do workshops in Leeds and I would get people booking, and the biggest thing, and I mean you'll probably hear this all the time, people would come and be like, I don't know what to do, I'm not creative, and I'd be like, shut up. Okay, I'm just going to give you these materials, and then they'd just sit, and I think a lot of it, like I said before, is just having the space and time, and within an hour and 2 hours they'd make the most amazing things, and they are inherently creative and they know what they want to do and they've got this capacity to explore and play and create, but they just need that kind of structure around them and kind of the permission, and like we were saying before, just a way for that creativity to express, it's not going to come just from them, it's from, I guess, environment and other people. And
the more that I kind of go through life, the more I've realised that everyone needs sort of a creative output. Even if they don't think they're creative as people, that just means they haven't found their thing. It's not about like creating amazing paintings, it's about like crocheting on the sofa.
I think, you know, never say that you're not creative. Don't hinder yourself that way, because there's always room for everybody in whatever form that comes in.
You've got to just be like not scared to do it. Like, don't hold yourself back. Find what is right for you, like in how you can express yourself creatively. But I think like everyone should be able to allow themselves to do that.
Yeah, just like, yeah, go and play, do stuff.
Everyone just wants to be a kid again. Literally, that is the secret, is that if you can just act more childlike but still keep the wisdom of getting older, then that's joy, isn't it? That's happiness.
Go and do something and have fun and enjoy it. Like, find something that interests you and have a go. And don't expect to be amazing the first time you do it, because it will only get better. Just enjoy what you're doing and don't worry about what you were like when you were 11.
I think everybody's creative in their own way. I think that, again, maybe it's a confidence thing, that people maybe just don't see aspects of the way in which they work as being creative. Like, to me, science is creative, maths is creative, but it might be that you're a mechanic. But you've still got to have those sorts of drives and intuitions, I think. You might just appreciate listening to music. You still have to have a creative appreciation to do that. You might be a gardener or a roofer or a tiler or, you know, a builder, but they all have these, like, even maybe small gamuts of creative kind of either skill or industry or...
I'd say, and I have said to people before, that's not true. You just maybe haven't found the thing that makes you, or you're not acknowledging the thing that you're already doing that is creative. Because even when people get dressed in the morning and they put their outfits together, that's creative. Like, you've got up in the morning, you visually decided to combine colours and jewellery and like whatever it is that you've done that morning, you have put yourself together in a creative way. You haven't just literally fallen into the wardrobe and fallen back out and gone, that'll do, and rolled out. There is something in your life that you're already doing that's creative and you're just not acknowledging it.
Yeah, it's that block, isn't it? Like, some people probably have that block where they think, like, I can't do it, but you can.
Yeah, everyone just, come hang out with me and make weird stuff.
Sold.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there's creativity in all of us somewhere.
I would tell them that they're wrong and that they are creative and that everything is an act of creation. Putting on an outfit in the morning is an act of creation. Boiling 2 eggs and having them for breakfast, you created that breakfast. You know, cooking's creative, everything's creative. Like, I think there's no way to get it wrong. You are making something. You took what was nothing and you made it into something. That's creative, baby. You did it. Crushed it. I think that, yeah.
That's the end of the film.
And then, just to throw in, can get this as the credits roll. I just want to read my favourite hate comment I ever got. This was after I did my collaboration with the Portrait Gallery, I got a very lovely comment from a man called Logan, who's a painter himself, and didn't appreciate what I did. You're defacing people's hard work. Put some work in yourself and draw copies in your own style. You're essentially a child scribbling over the work of great artists. You're too lazy to learn the discipline yourself, so you slap a few bright, poorly blended colours on great works, and all your yes men friends applaud it. But rest assured, what you're doing is garbage and a slap in the face of true painters whose work you're running your crayons over. Thank you, Logan. I had to get it in there somewhere. I have saved that comment for 3 years, and I've never been able to utilise it.